As the new character for the version 5.1, we have a beautiful character both in appearance and in value for your account. In this video, I will explain all you need to know about her, how to build her, how to play with her, everything. If you end up liking this guide, don't forget to leave a like and a sub, it's totally free, and that way YouTube will know if you like my content and will start recommending it more for you and for other people as well. All my links are in the description, just as my Twitch channel for a chance of winning free blessings. So, without any furthers, let's talk about Xilonen's kit. Xilonen is a 5-star Geosword user, focused on being a support for your teams, but also with the option of being a DPS. On her normal attacks, Xilonen performs up to 3 attacks. And, on her charge attack, she consumes a certain amount of stamina to perform a kick. When you use her skill, Hollow Wall Scratch, Xilonen rushes forward a certain distance and deals geo damage based on her defense. After using her skill, Xilonen will gain 45 Night Soul points and will enter the Night Soul's Blessing state. And, in this same state, she will enhance her normal attacks to the Blade Roller mode, where they will start scaling on her defense and where she will be able to perform up to 4 kicks that will deal geo damage. Also, during her skill, Xilonen has 3 samplers with her that can change their color based on her other party members' elemental types, decreasing nearby opponents' corresponding elemental res while active. The initial samplers will be Geo, and for each party member who is Pyro, Hydro, Cryo or Electro, one Geo sampler will change to the corresponding element. While Xilonen is in the Night Soul's Blessing state, the Geo sampler she carries will always be active. And, thanks to her passive talent, Xilonen can regenerate Night Soul's points for herself, and when her Night Soul points hit the maximum, she will consume all Night Soul points and will activate the 3 samples she has on hand for 15 seconds. When the samples are active, nearby opponents' corresponding elemental res will decrease, but the samples effects of the same elemental type cannot stack, and Xilonen can trigger these effects even when off-field. And for last, on her burst, on Celatiku point, Xilonen deals AoE damage based on her defense and will trigger specific effect depending on the number of samplers you have. If you have at least 2 samplers that are not Geo, she will start healing the character on field at intervals based on her defense. But, if you don't have at least 2 samplers that changed elements, she will start dealing AoE Geo damage based on her defense at intervals. With her Exploration passive, Tour of the Peluit, triggering Night Soul Transmission restores 15 Phlogiston. With her first Ascension passive, Night Soul Lead sees echoes, while in the Night Soul Blessing state, if Xilonen has at least 2 samplers that had their elemental types change, she gains 35 Night Soul points when her normal or plunging attacks hits opponent. But, if Xilonen has fewer than 2 samplers that had their elemental types change, her normal and plunging attacks deal 30% increased damage. On her second Ascension passive, Portable Armored State, while in the Night Soul's Blessing state, when Xilonen's Night Soul points reach the maximum, she will trigger an effect equal to that of her Night Soul Burst. This effect can be triggered once every 14 seconds. Additionally, when nearby party members trigger a Night Soul Burst, Xilonen's defense is increased by 20% for 15 seconds. And for last, on her Nightland passive, Night Realm's Gift, Blessing of Forge Fire, after running out of Night Soul points, Xilonen will start consuming Phlogiston when in Nightland, and when her icon turns red, she can use Night Soul Transmission, where if you switch to her when your active character is currently sprinting, climbing, in a movement mode caused by certain talents, or at a certain height in the air, Xilonen will enter the Night Soul Blessing state and gain 20 Night Soul points. And, in addition, while in Nightland, Xilonen will not consume stamina when climbing while in the Night Soul's Blessing state. Her talent priorities are the following: focus on your skill first, because that's where your elemental res decreases, then your burst for the extra heals or damage, and for less your normal attacks, which you should only level up if you want her to be a DPS. Now let's talk a bit about Xilonen and Constellations, because being the broken support she is at C0, I assume most of you will try to make her even stronger with Constellations. On her C1, Xilonen's Night Soul points and Phlogiston consumption in her Night Soul's Blessing state is decreased by 30%, and her Night Soul point time limit is extended by 45%. Additionally, when Xilonen source samples are active, she can also increase nearby active characters' interruption resistance. On her C2, Xilonen's Geo source sample will always remain active. Additionally, when her source samples activate, all nearby party members will gain effects corresponding to the active source sample that matches their elemental type. If it is Geo, your damage is increased by 50%. If it is Pyro, your attack increases by 45%. If it is Hydro, your max HP increases by 45%, If it is Cryo, your crit damage increases by 60, and if it is Electro, you will restore 25 energy and decrease Elemental Burst cooldown by 6 seconds. Her C3 will increase the level of her skill by 3, with her C4, after Xilonen uses a skill, she will grant all nearby party members the Blooming Blessing effect for 15 seconds, where they will deal 65% of Xilonen's defense as increased normal, charge and plunging attack damage. This effect will be removed after triggering 6 times or when the duration ends. When you hit more than one opponent, trigger counts will be consumed based on the number of opponents hit. The counts for each party member with Blooming Blessing are counted independently. Her C5 will increase the level of her burst by 3, and for last with her C6, when Xilonen is in the Night Soul's Blessing state, when she sprints, leaps or uses normal or plunging attacks, she will gain Imperishable Night Blessing, ignoring the limitations of her Night Soul's Blessing state and increasing the damage dealt by her normal and plunging attacks for 5 seconds. During this time, her Night Soul Blessing's time limit cooldown will be paused. Xilonen's Night Soul points, Phlogiston and stamina will not decrease, and when her Night Soul points reach the maximum, her Night Soul's Blessing state will not end either. Xilonen deals 300% of her defense as increased normal and plunging attack damage while in the Night Soul's Blessing state, and she heals nearby party members for 120% of her defense every 1.5 seconds, and she can gain one Imperishable Night Blessing once every 15 seconds. Now it's time to talk about the best artifact sets you should farm for your Xilonen. Even though she has the option to be played as a DPS at C0, her support capabilities are way better than her damage, and you should only focus on that playstyle if you plan on going for C6. With this being said, Xilonen best in slot will be the 4-piece Scroll of the Hero, because its 2-piece will generate 6 elemental energy for your Xilonen when your team triggers a Night Soul Burst, and its 4-piece effect will make your Xilonen give 40% elemental damage bonus to any element involved in the elemental reaction she makes on her Night Soul Blessing state. The 40% elemental damage bonus plus the elemental res decrease is what makes this set her best in slot and pretty much her only option if you are not aiming for C6. But if you really want to turn your Xilonen into a DPS, or if you have her C6, Obsidian Codex will be your best option. On its 2-piece, this set will provide you a permanent 15% damage bonus while you are on Night Soul's Blessing state on field, and its 4-piece effect will increase your crit rate by 40% for 6 seconds after you consume one Night Soul point while on field. And for last, if you are still farming for her best in slot, you can mix and match 2 pieces between the sets that provide defense and ER, but I advise you to try to get her best in slot as soon as possible. Now that we know the best sets, let's now talk about the stats you need to be looking for. For the Sense, ER or defense percent. For the Goblet, defense percent. And for the Circlet, healing bonus, defense percent, or crit rate if you really need to achieve the Pavonius passive. For the substats, you should focus on defense percent, ER, and crit rate. And if for some reason you are going for DPS Xilonen, you will want defense percent Sense, geo damage Goblet, and crit Circlet. And for the substats, crits, defense, and ER. For Xilonen weapons, her best in slot will be her signature, Peak Patrol Song. Her weapon will provide a massive amount of defense on its substat, and its passive will provide you stacks when hitting enemies with normal or plunging attacks that will increase your defense and elemental damage. But that's not all. When reaching the max number of stacks, you will increase your team's elemental damage by 8% for every 1000 defense you have, up to a maximum of 25.6% for 15 seconds. Meaning that with her weapon, you will need to have at least 3200 defense if you want to maximize this passive. Her second best option will be Kazuha's signature weapon, Freedom Sword, which provides EM on its substat, something she doesn't care about, but has a passive that increases your team normal, charge and plunging attacks damage by 16% and attack by 20% for 20 seconds after you trigger 2 elemental reactions. Her best F2P weapon will be the old and trusty Favonius Sword, which will provide a good amount of ER on its substat, and throughout its passive, you will start being able to better your team thanks to the particles you will get when you crit your attacks. But if you already have a lot of ER in your build, you can use the new craftable sword from Natlan, Bluetop Eptizol, as your free-to-play weapon, since this weapon provides a good amount of defense on its substat, and its passive further increases your defense after using skill for 15 seconds. And for last, if you are going for DPS Xilonen, you can use any weapon that provides crits, with highlights to Uraku, the Black Sword, and the Harbinger of Dawn. For Xilonen teams, as we already realized, she will be an amazing support for any team that has elements that can synergize with Geo, making her super universal and valuable to have in your account. So here are some options. For a Neuvillette team, pair her with Neuvillette, Furina and Kazuha. For an Avia team, pair her with Navia, Bennett, and Furina or Xiangling. For an Arlecchino team, pair her with Arlecchino, Bennett, and Yelan or Chinkyo. For a Mualani team, pair her with Mualani, Emily, and Xiangling. And for an Hyper Carry team, pair her with Goru, Furina or Yunjin, and Shiori or Albedo or Zhongli. Just a reminder that you shouldn't limit yourself into only using these teams. Feel free to experiment and have fun with the characters you want to use. And if you have any questions about who to use to replace characters you don't have, feel free to ask me in the comments. So what's your opinion about Xilonen? Are you pulling for this amazing support? After this guide, I hope you have a more understanding on how to build and play with her. If you like my content, don't forget to leave your sub and to like this video. Don't forget to check my links on the description, such as my Twitch channel for a chance of winning free blessings. Stay safe, have a good one, and good luck on your pulls.